Little Isaac Newton was a quiet boy. He loved to think and explore. Now, the world was a fascinating place for him. There was so much to discover.
I lived on a farm. I spent my days wandering in the orchards and fields.
Isaac loved to observe nature. He watched bees buzzing around flowers. He saw birds soaring in the sky. He wondered how everything worked. Curiosity filled his mind.
Why is the sky blue? How do birds fly?
Isaac always asked questions. His parents encouraged his curiosity. They knew he was a special boy. Isaac loved to build things. From a very young age, he was always fascinated by how things worked and how they were put together. His room was filled with various projects, from small wooden toys to intricate models of buildings. He used wood scraps to create his inventions. Every piece of wood he found was a potential part of his next big idea. He would spend hours in his little workshop, hammering, sawing, and gluing pieces together, lost in his world of creativity. One day he decided to build a windmill. He'd always been intrigued by the way windmills worked, converting the power of the wind into mechanical energy. He spent days sketching out his design, making sure every detail was perfect. He had seen a big windmill at a farm nearby. It stood tall and proud, its blades turning gracefully in the wind. The sight of it had left a lasting impression on him, and he knew he wanted to create something similar. It looked so powerful and grand. The way it harnessed the wind's energy to grind grain or pump water was nothing short of magical to Isaac. He dreamed of building a windmill that could do the same, even if on a smaller scale. Isaac wanted to make a smaller version. He knew it wouldn't be as powerful as the one on the farm, but he was determined to make it work. He wanted to see the blades spin and feel the satisfaction of creating something with his own hands.
I gathered wood, nails, and tools. I searched through my father's workshop, finding the perfect pieces of wood and the right tools for the job. My father always encouraged my projects, and he had taught me how to use the tools safely and effectively. I worked carefully, just like my father taught me. Every cut, every nail, and every piece of wood was placed with precision. I wanted my windmill to be perfect, and I knew that meant taking my time and doing it right. Slowly, the windmill started to take shape. Piece by piece, it came together. The base, the tower, and finally, the blades. It was a labor of love, and I could see my vision becoming a reality. It had 4 wooden blades. They were perfectly balanced. I had spent extra time making sure they were just right, knowing that even a small imbalance could prevent them from spinning properly.
Isaac climbed onto a big rock. He wanted to get his windmill up high where the wind was stronger. He had read that windmills worked best when they were elevated, and he was eager to see if his would spin, and held his windmill high. He could feel the anticipation building inside him. Would it work? Would the blades spin like the big windmill on the farm? A gentle breeze blew across the orchard. It was a perfect day for testing his creation. The wind was steady, and Isaac could feel it tugging at his clothes and ruffling his hair. The windmill's blades began to spin. Isaac was thrilled. His creation actually worked. The blades turned smoothly, catching the wind just as he had hoped. It was a moment of pure joy and accomplishment. He had harnessed the power of the wind. It was a small windmill, but it was his, and it worked. He felt a sense of pride and satisfaction that he had never felt before. This made him want to learn even more. He realized that there was so much more to discover and create. The success of his windmill was just the beginning of his journey into the world of invention and discovery. One sunny afternoon, the village held its annual fair. The sun shone brightly, casting a warm glow over the bustling village square. The air buzzed with excitement. There were games, laughter, and the cheerful chatter of villagers. Food stalls lined the streets, offering delicious treats and savory snacks. Music filled the air, creating a festive atmosphere. Isaac, a curious young boy, was eager to see the wonders the fair held. His eyes sparkled with anticipation as he looked around. He went to the fair with his family, holding his mother's hand tightly as they navigated through the crowd.
I tried my hand at ring toss and admired the colorful ribbons fluttering in the breeze. The game was challenging but fun, but I was most drawn to a stall filled with strange and fascinating objects. Each item seemed to tell a story of its own. It was the science stall, a place where magic and reality intertwined.
A kind old scientist showed off his experiments. He had a twinkle in his eye and a passion for sharing knowledge. Isaac watched in awe as liquids changed colors and sparks flew. The vibrant reactions captivated his imagination. He listened intently as the scientist explained the science behind each wonder. Every word was a new discovery for Isaac. Keep asking questions, young man. Never stop being curious. Curiosity is the key to discovery. It opens doors to new worlds and endless possibilities. Isaac's heart swelled with inspiration. He ran back to his family, eager to share everything he had learned. The fair had ignited a spark within him. As the sun began to set, the family left the fair, their hearts full of joy and wonder. Isaac knew this day would stay with him forever. Under the twinkling night sky, the village fair had come to an end, but the memories and inspiration it brought would last a lifetime. As Isaac walked through the orchard later that day, he saw an apple fall from a tree. The sight of the apple descending from the branch to the ground was something he had witnessed countless times before. This was a common occurrence in the orchard, a natural event that seemed almost mundane. But this time it seemed different. There was something about the way the apple fell that caught his attention. A simple yet profound question popped into his mind, one that he had never considered before.
Why does the apple always fall down and not up? Why does it follow this particular path?
It seemed like a simple question, one that a child might ask out of curiosity. But Isaac realized he didn't know the answer. This question, simple as it was, opened a door to a world of inquiry. He thought about the apple falling straight down, as if drawn by an invisible force. He thought about other things that fall. Leaves, raindrops, even the toys he threw up in the air. They all fell back to the ground. Why did they all follow the same pattern? They all fell back to the ground. Why? What was the common thread that connected these events? What made them do that? What was the force that pulled them down? Isaac was determined to find out. He knew that this question, though simple, held the key to understanding a fundamental truth about the world around him. He began to observe more closely, to think more deeply, and to question everything he had taken for granted. This moment of curiosity would eventually lead him to one of the most important discoveries in the history of science, the law of gravity.
I decided to conduct my own experiments.
He gathered objects of different sizes and weights.
Look, Isaac, let's throw them up in the air and watch them fall.
His friends joined in, giggling as they helped him.
I'll throw this small pebble.
Isaac threw a large rock.
And now let's see what happens with this feather.
Isaac carefully observed each object.
I want to see if heavier things fall faster.
He noticed something interesting.
The pebble and the rock seem to fall at similar speeds.
But the feather floated slowly down, taking its time.
Why is the feather different?
Isaac scratched his head in confusion.
I'll continue my experiments.
He dropped a feather and a stone at the same time.
I want to see which one will hit the ground first.
He stood on a stool to get a better view.
Here we go.
He dropped them.
The stone fell with a thud.
The feather drifted slowly down.
Just as I expected, the stone landed first. But why?
What made the feather fall so differently?
Could the feather's lightness and shape be why it fell slower?
His mind raced with possibilities.
There's more to falling objects than I first thought.
Isaac started to think about an invisible force.
Could something be pulling objects down?
He imagined an invisible hand pulling everything towards the ground.
I'll call this force gravity.
He realized that gravity acted on everything.
It makes the apple fall from the tree.
It kept his feet planted firmly on the ground.
I'm starting to understand the world around me in a new way.
Isaac was excited by his discovery.
I want to learn more about this invisible force called gravity.
He wondered how far it reached.
Does it go beyond the trees and the clouds?
His curiosity soared like a bird in the sky. Section 8, Adventures in the Library.
Isaac spent hours in his grandfather's library. He read every book he could find about science and mathematics. He learned about the stars and planets. He studied the laws of motion.
He learned about other scientists who asked big questions. Isaac was inspired by their work. He realized that he could use math to understand the universe. He started to conduct more experiments. He built sundials to track time. He made detailed drawings of the moon's phases.
Isaac was becoming a young scientist. He knew that learning was a lifelong adventure, and he was just getting started.
Section 9, Isaac's telescope.
As Isaac learned more about the stars, he wanted to see them up close. He heard about a new invention called the telescope. It could magnify distant objects. Isaac was determined to build one himself.
He gathered lenses and tubes. He carefully crafted them using his skills and knowledge. Finally, Isaac finished his telescope. It wasn't perfect, but it worked.
He pointed it towards the night sky. Isaac saw craters on the moon. He saw Jupiter's moons. The universe was even more amazing than he imagined. Isaac realized how much more there was to discover. He was filled with a sense of wonder.
Section 10. Unraveling the Mysteries. Isaac Newton never stopped asking questions. He kept experimenting and exploring throughout his life. He became one of the most famous scientists of all time. Isaac's discoveries changed the way we understand the universe. He developed the laws of motion and universal gravitation. These laws explained how objects move and interact with each other. Isaac showed that the same force that made the apple fall also governed the motion of the planets. His work laid the foundation for modern physics and astronomy, all because he dared to ask why when he saw an apple fall from a tree. Section 11. Keep asking why. Isaac Newton's story teaches us a valuable lesson. Curiosity is the key to unlocking the mysteries of the universe. Never be afraid to ask questions. Always be eager to learn new things. The world is full of wonders waiting to be discovered. Just like Isaac Newton, you can make amazing discoveries too. So keep exploring, keep experimenting, and keep asking why. The sky is the limit.